here already. If you could let me know if you can hear me okay. If audio is good, just drop that in the chat, please. And then we'll get started right away. Let's see if I can update this. Okay, great. Let me know if you guys can hear me in the chat, and then as soon as people jump in here, excellent. Already get some confirmation, so we'll kick it off. Let's switch over to the S&P 500. We'll give this one more second to load. So for you guys that have been to some of these live events, if you have any chart requests, things you're looking at, questions, drop them in the chat, and I'm going to go through just a few things. I'm going to cover the broad markets and a couple of other markets of interest, the most popular ones, but just a few, probably about 5 minutes or so of me talking, maybe even less, and then whatever you guys want to look at, we'll jump right into it. So let's kick it off, and people follow in. If you miss any of this, the broadcast will be recorded and published in a couple of hours or so. So let's kick it off. S&P 500, nice day today, finally getting some confirmation higher, but we're slowly kind of waning here in the afternoon session. So here's what I'm looking at. Very excited on this open today. We basically gapped above resistance and making new sort of 11-day breakaway here from this 11-day range to all-time highs. Very constructive. The concern is, though, is with this late day fade exactly at the previous all-time highs here made last Monday on the 15th. That's what's going to give maybe the bears a little confidence here that the market's failing at that same spot yet again. So it'll be interesting to see how this all develops. I still think net this is all very constructive action here. Breadth today is pretty positive. Advancers taking advantage here and outpacing decliners by a good amount. So yeah, I would still consider this constructive action for sure. Longer term, absolutely, trend is intact. Are we stretched? Are we tired? Is this looking like it could be a top? Sure, it does. It looks like it could be, but until we see some confirmation, until we see support actually break, get below some of these fast-moving averages, it's tough to be too bearish here, right? That's the way I look at it. Stick with the trend. Under the hood, there's still sectors that are working, and we'll cover those in just a little bit. IWM also very constructive today, right? Nice breakaway here, extending this trend higher, getting a little bit of momentum, a little more pep in this step. So IWM I really like a lot. Now, a couple of interesting things, and then if you guys tuning in just now, if you have questions, drop them in the chat. We'll cover this in just a little bit. XLB, this is one we talked about last week. Really tight here in this nice consolidation at holding up at highs, not all-time highs, but holding up at highs for 2016, and that got its gap higher today. And this, could it be a breakaway gap? I'm not sure, but this is a sector where you want to pay attention to. Look at the components that make this up, because you're starting to see some rotation back into XLB, or kind of a reemergence here, because this was running pretty hot earlier this year. So XLB, keep an eye on that. Nice clean breakaway today. See if that can stick. XLE, we discussed this one quite a bit, right? You got this nice resistance that it's been clearing above since late 2015. Came back down, retested the 69.50 level, and it looks to be successfully holding so far. Still opportunity there, so keep an eye on that one. USO is also where we want to talk about. USO is an interesting one, right? Recently, this has been a very active sort of emotional trade here, and the reason I say emotional trade is there's been a lot of very key wide range kind of days here, and it's trading very cleanly. Like, there's a lot of participants in here, that there's a lot of movement in here. You had the V-shaped rally, which is very difficult to catch off of the August lows here, right as we came into the month, and we had this big push higher, you know, retracing 70% or so of this initial down move that started in June. Now, the interesting days was this day right here, and I've talked about this in the previous video, so I don't want to go too much into it. This was a very kind of telling day. These are always days that I take notice of when you have, you know, a rally, sort of a bear flag, retracement into declining moving averages, and then you get this type of day here that you'd expect a rollover to start, and the exact opposite happens, right? And that proved to be a point at which there was a lot more demand for this market than, you know, the chart was sort of, you know, telling us at this point. And you know, eventually fueled us up here. We had no idea that could happen, but the rally was, again, very strong. Then you had this very emotional down day yesterday, off of, you know, this, I guess, a hanging man a bit from last Friday, but still a kind of sudden move. And then you're getting another engulfing the other day. So there's a lot of very kind of wide range, you know. This is a chart that you basically, you know, there's a lot of participants here, so moves are going to be generally cleaner. And, you know, when you start to get, you know, in these types of trends, so either from an intraday perspective, it depends how you want to approach it. I'm not involved in this. This was the clearest signal that I saw, and I passed on it, and now I still don't really have too much. Today's certainly interesting, but you have your clear reference points, right? You're in the middle of this swing high, this swing low, and, you know, of course, we're waiting to see what happens. Larger picture, you know, we know what's going on with USO. So for anybody that's just joining, if you guys want to leave some stocks that you want to take a look at, I'm pretty much going to cut over to those. I have a handful of names that I'm looking at. I'm going to go through one or two of them now, and then I'm just going to take your questions. BMO, this is one that's moving quite a bit today. You know, we like breakout trades, and this is breaking out very nicely from this base up here. Financials are a sector that can't say they're leaders, but they're trying to firm. They're in a weird, you know, they're in that tough kind of spot. But BMO, Bank of Montreal, you can see on the weekly chart particularly, look at this nice run up it had throughout 2016, and then it consolidated for about 3 or 4 months, and it looks to be legging higher now, starting a bigger structural kind of weekly time frame trend breakout higher. This is something that's interesting, depending on your strategy. Might be able to get a hold of that on the shorter term basis. One other one, and then I have others, but I'm just going to go to your questions next. MRK, this one's interesting here. Hasn't quite broken out just yet. Looked like it wanted to today, but it's still just hanging here at resistance, but nice and pent up, right? Beautiful flag, big push higher off of this event. I don't know what this is, so you got to do your due diligence, because I don't know if that was earnings or something else. And then, you know, of course, now we have this nice consolidation at all-time highs, not all-time highs, but certainly multi-year highs for MRK. So keep an eye on that. Could be interesting. Okay, let's jump into some questions. All right, first coming is BIIB. So Biogen. Let's start with the weekly chart. This is one that we've covered before and get a good amount of questions on this one. So, you know, long-term uptrend for multiple years through starting in 2009 all the way to 2015, where we got that top out, and then this nice pullback here. And recently, though, we've broken this series of lower highs in this channel, and this was as recent of last month, just a few weeks ago, where we broke out to the upside here, finally kind of leaving those old lower highs behind us and getting a change of character on the weekly time frame, getting back into this gap over here. I just got, actually didn't get quite to the gap, almost retested the gap lower from July of 2015. So very constructive. You know, the bulls have the court kind of here. The 8 and 20 are up on both the weekly and daily chart. I like it. Constructive action, starting to make higher highs and higher lows. For now, it still looks very comfortably kind of consolidating. I'd need to see a little more consolidation here. I mean, I certainly like it, but I'd like to see this filled out. It's acting pretty peculiar. I know there's breakout or takeover chatter on this name, and you know, I'm not going to get into that part of it, but it's interesting here the way this kind of like you know, this retraced lower and then it's trying to come up. It's it's just acting peculiar. I'd want to see this just develop out a little bit more. Maybe let these moving averages catch up, let this base solidify a bit more. I mean, could you trade it long right now against this low? I suppose. I don't know how, I don't hate it, but it's not a trade that I would look at just yet. So I'd just like to see a little more consolidation come through, and then maybe a trade through 320 where all these tails keep coming in at. That could be interesting, but that's sort of the way I look at it. It's definitely constructive, so I want to play that for the long side. STX, so Seagate, this is one I haven't looked at in a long time. This one's been in a downtrend for multiple years, since the beginning of 2015, topping out. It is breaking that accelerated kind of trend lower that it was in for all of this time since late 2014. And it's the 8 and 20 did curl over. I like that. It's catching its, it's trying to stabilize here and start to make, start to trend the other way. It's got a lot of resistance right here to the left, so this is certainly, and the market's responding to it, right? This is where it's topping out, 32.50. This is where we've got some supply coming in here from earlier this year, late 2015. So I would like it, clearing above these highs here as a breakout out of this base. I think that's constructive. It's holding high. It's holding this gap right here. So it's doing things right. It's gapping up, breaking this trend line. It's basing out, holding near highs. All constructive action. Now you just got to figure out how to get involved in it above 32.60 or above 32.80. I like it for some continuation. It's not my favorite long in the world, but I don't mind that too much. AHGP. For those of you who are just joining, if you have any stocks you want to look at, I'm basically going through the chat now, and anybody that has stocks of interest is what I'm covering. If you missed the beginning of this, the recording will be out later. So we get a coal name here, AHGP. This is one I've never looked at before. Nice formation today. I like this recent consolidation, this pullback here, and then you're starting to get a bit of a lift off today. I like these patterns. This is something that I traditionally do look at when you get this nice kind of clean consolidation after new momentum highs. It's setup that I do like to trade. So I do like this. I think the risk to reward sets up nicely here, particularly on a day like today. I think it's pretty actionable. If you're buying here with a stop at 23, I think the market certainly demonstrated there's some support in here. You're in an uptrend. You had new momentum recently. I like this trade. Weekly chart, certainly where we're coming from with coal. So there's a lot of work cut out for it on the weekly chart and monthly charts, but for the daily, things are trending in the right direction. I like it. So let's look at AG. So AG has recently gotten a little bit of the wind out of sails here as it kind of broke down from this rising trend line that it's been in. Let's go to the weekly chart, which it's gotten completely vertical in since the beginning of this year, right? Started at 240. I don't even know what that is. 5x, even more so, almost 10x from where it started in 2016. So a very, very impressive run. Looking at it on the weekly chart, this is the way I would start with it, because this is so vertical, but because it's so sharp, emotional, and vertical, and momentum was so strong on the upside, I do like buying these types of dips, but when appropriate, when the market's sort of shown us that we can. I'm not sure yet that we can do that. On the weekly time frame, I mean, the 20 EMA is a good gauge, right? That's always where I like to see things come down after sharp rallies. Again, we're looking at a weekly chart here. So it could, come back down to 13 and still, in the context of this uptrend, be holding at the top 70%, more or less, of this trend if you put Fibonacci on there, or if you're just looking at how much it's retraced in general. So that's the way I'd look at it. On the daily chart, I don't see anything here. Yes, you had a little bit of a reversal yesterday, but that's not convincing enough to me. You got this kind of sharply lower. I'd want to see this stabilize more, and I'd be keying off the weekly chart. And again, I'd be looking to see if it can hold in on this 20, and this might need a couple of weeks to stabilize around 13 before it builds some type of higher low, and then you can try and trade against it using the daily as timing. It's the way I would approach it. I don't want to get too much into strategy, but that's sort of what I'd be looking at. I mean, you got a recent leader for sure. You just need to try and measure and get on board that pullback in a kind of risk-adjusted tactical way. PANW. So Palo Alto, I haven't looked at this one in a while either. So weekly chart, nice uptrend since 2013, 2014, and then it's been recently pulling back here. So I do like, I think this is healthy weekly chart, right? I tend to go on the weekly chart first, and where a lot of people are scared on the daily, saying it's in a bear market, and it arguably is, depending on your time frame, right? Weekly chart still very constructive. You can see it hasn't really flipped its kind of characteristics just yet. It's at the top end of this kind of consolidation, and again, this is very subjectively drawn trend line right here, so I don't want you to put too much weighting on this exact trend line that I'm drawing, but you can see nothing really has changed just yet, right? It is legging higher here. If you zoom in, right, you can see it's starting to make some higher highs and higher lows. I get that, but it's still in a larger kind of structural consolidation pattern, and it's just kind of messy. It's just too messy. So that's the way I look at it. Got some constructive action short term, larger term, longer term though. Looking at this, I don't see anything yet. I see the 8 and 20 trying to curl over. If it can get up to 150, base out sideways, then push higher, that would get me more interested. So that's sort of the way that I would look at PANW. TLT. So yeah, that's one that I actually meant to cover. I like TLT still. I know there's a lot of naysayers, and the fundamental argument here about rates and where that can go, I don't want to get into that. But TLT is a constructive price action formation, right? It's I get that it could be losing some momentum up here. I understand that, but from a price structural standpoint, this is doing everything right? It's still kind of grinding higher. 8 and 20, very healthy, bullish alignment here, and it keeps just pushing out of these consolidation patterns and trending higher. So it's tough to be a bear here. Admittedly though, if we do start to lose 138, because this is starting to get pretty sizable in this consolidation, if we start to definitively lose 138 in an ugly type of big gap down fashion, or a big red large expansion breakdown bar, then I start to get a little worried that this is some distribution up here. But until I see that, I don't see the signs yet. It could really just go any way right now, and it's consolidating, and it's doing what trending markets do, right? It's consolidating and breaking out. So gotta wait to see how this resolve is. I think the levels are pretty clear. I mean, this trend line's a little subjective here, but if it can start to really clear above 141 or so, hold above 140 even, I like it, and you have a clear risk to shoot against is that 137 level. So I still like TLT. NYLD, utilities name. Yeah, so this is one that someone asked about last time, I believe. So it's completing and trying to emerge from a very healthy kind of perfect kind of accumulation bottoming pattern, right? This is textbook kind of basing action here after an extended downtrend, or in this case, I guess a massive gap down, which I'm not sure what happened there, but regardless, it does seem to be, have stabilized here over the past 16 to 18 months as it's been in this consolidation, and it's trying to lift higher now. It held successfully at this breakout level at the top end of this range, right around 1675, and that was just as of a few days ago. And you're getting a nice lift today, 5%. I do like it. It looks constructive action to me. Again, you really above $18 is where that new momentum trend really starts. You could argue that it's still consolidating here, but I like it. It has proven itself, and I think you have pretty good risk to trade that against. So NYLD, I think, is starting to shape up. McDonald's, yeah, this one's a little more concerning. You can see it's back at some pretty significant support. So if you're a dip buyer, if you're looking at support, if you like to trade at support, then this is certainly a point of interest to you. I do like to trade at support, right? That's always a good idea. But I like to see evidence that support is in fact support, right? We're still just waiting to see, is this going to hold where we held in early 2016? I don't see signs of that just yet. Maybe a mini constructive bar yesterday, but 8 and 20 still very sharply headed lower. I'd need to see this prove itself here longer, and this is a significant level for McDonald's, of course, now, because it was such significant support, as you know, going back to many months now. So that's sort of the way I'd look at it. This is an inflection area. You want to pay attention to it. Monthly chart, you can see it's still, you know, in between the 8 and 20. So depends on your time frame, right? Monster uptrend on a longer term basis, but pay attention here. Look for signs of stabilization. Let these moving averages catch up a little bit. Wouldn't be too much in a hurry, and then you might have a great risk to reward setting up off this area in just a little bit. I don't know if CIA is the actual one that you want me to look at here. I guess it is. Yeah, it must be CIA. Something I haven't looked at in a long time, or I don't know if I've ever looked at Citizens. So this chart, I mean, just off the bat though, like looking at this chart, so messy. I don't know what kind of volume this is doing, but just a very kind of, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Don't like this chart in general for trading standpoint. If this is some type of long-term investment, I get it. To me, you know, it's got to get over 10. I mean, it's really going to get over 11, and given the history of this, that could take years. It just doesn't look like a clean trending name so much that I would be that interested in. I get that it's had a 20-30% move off of $7 to 10 in 3 months. But you know, I think if you want to try and trade momentum on it, it is consolidating. It's an uptrend, holding the 20. I think that's constructive. But that's probably all I would say on that one. I did cover the SPY already. I'm going to skip that one. You can scroll back, or the video will be published after. Oh yeah, so McDonald's on the short side. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, the same kind of comments apply here, right? You're at an inflection point. You know, I haven't seen any evidence that support is here yet, you know, so if you want to take it off into support, I get that. That's logical. That makes sense. Maybe take a piece of it off and hold the rest, see what kind of action develops here. Because for all we know, McDonald's could come flying, you know, could just break right through this like it's not even there, and then you're going to get a real panic to ensue, which could be your best kind of, you know, acceleration on the short side. So if you're short McDonald's and you've been with it and you're sticking with it, you know, trail some, trim some. The old saying is never a bad idea. Lock in some profits. But, you know, I'd be interested to see what happens regardless, long or short. Yeah, from 121. So, I mean, you've got some nice cushion on it. Depends, you know, where else you want to take that. So, yeah, that looks good. Anybody that's just joining, if you have any other trades, stocks that you want me to look at, please let me know. Or just drop it in the chat. JetBlue, yeah, this has been a dog for a while now. Nothing really changed here. It's just consolidating, right? It's in a downtrend. It's pulling back on a long-term basis here. If you're looking at like a monthly or a weekly chart, you can see it was in a nice uptrend for multiple years, 2012 to 2015. That's where it topped out, started pulling back. Hasn't really changed yet. If you go to the daily chart, I mean, this is going to be an interesting level if you get back here. Maybe this is the low, and maybe we can put in a higher low here, but that's all speculation until it actually happens. So for me, JetBlue is still dominated by sellers right now, and it looks like it needs quite a bit of time for that to reverse. To get excited on the long side, you got to get this trend to change to the upside. That's the way I'd be looking at JetBlue. NVIDIA has been a monster, something that I always kept saying I was just going to buy it and hold it, and I never did. So weekly chart here of NVIDIA, this one has tripled this year, pretty much, close to it, from 25 to 63, monster run, really acceleration to the upside here. If you go to the daily chart, it's been riding above the 8 EMA for quite some time now, and it just keeps grinding out the highs. If you're not involved in it, I mean, it's tough. This is one that's, you know, it's going to act, when it acts like this, and I love trading stocks that just levitate above the 8 EMA with very little volatility. I love to try and own those. At this point, though, I probably couldn't really do that. I could throw on Bollinger Bands, but I'm not really sure where that would really stand on things. I mean, you got to just take it day by day. If you're looking for an entry, maybe a pullback, or, you know, in these cases, in these very strong trending stocks, 2 or 3 days of down movement is a gift. And if you can get it at the 8 EMA, then you're technically, you know, getting a pretty, you know, a pretty nice entry relative to what this trend offers. So that's sort of the way I'd look at it. I mean, it's still just a monster trend, acceleration higher. You know, don't have too much else to say besides it's great. It's awesome. I mean, those are things you want to try and own. ETE, this one, yeah, this one's pretty interesting. I mean, weekly chart, let's start there. So huge downtrend with much of the sector for 2015, started to stabilize this year. 8 and 20 curled over, so it is putting in a little bit of a retracement. Not the cleanest, you know, you can tell a lot by just the candles and the way, you know, the way this sort of progression of trend kind of develops here. And ETE, for some reason, just doesn't look all that attractive from a trading vehicle standpoint. It's mostly a very low volatility grinding kind of stock. But you can see, you know, this was the big reference point here. You could argue this was some type of cup and handle. We broke out above it. It's trending higher, and it's above the 8 and 20. So for me, I don't see too much of an entry. I mean, you got clearly a little 5-day high you could trade against, and if it starts to clear and take out yesterday, or you know, these cluster of highs here around 18 and a quarter, could be an interesting signal. For me, not that actionable, but it's trended in the right direction. You know, I stick with it. I mean, long side certainly is certainly where I'd want to be. Yeah, I did cover XLE, not extensively. I mean, just to say exactly what you said, it looks, you know, we did get this resistance breakout here. I should really clean this chart up. But we did get this breakout here of multi-month resistance going back to 2015. Got a little bit of a check back yesterday over the past 2 days of a pullback, and now it's retested it fine and it's bouncing higher. So again, you know, it does not to say that we can't just come crashing back down tomorrow and start, you know, breaking below it, but so far things look good. 8 and 20 are up. It's generally a market that is, you know, that you know, risk is to the upside. You want to, you know, expect support to hold in uptrends. That's what it's doing so far. So I like XLE. For me, more interested in playing some of the components underneath XLE rather than the ETF, just because you get more beta there. But I like it, you know. I mean, it's tough not to like a chart like this where you've got a nice kind of basing breakout type of play, and it's early in those stages. So I do like XLE. All right, AMT, this looks to be the last one. American Tower, let's go to the weekly chart. You can see it's had a nice acceleration this year, had a nice breakout. I remember looking at this earlier this year, and I didn't quite get it. But it broke out from this great looking pattern here, a nice consolidation. This, as it started to emerge from these highs and hold higher right here, this is definitely where I like to get into them, these little bases on these big bases. So like right as you get this big pattern breakout, then you get this little mini kind of consolidation above resistance. I love those patterns. So as it started to break out through here, that's where it gets real interesting to me on constructive. Remember, that's a weekly time frame chart. So if we go back to the daily chart, this is one that is interesting, especially as it's emerged as a leader this year. So you want to take these pullbacks and watch them carefully, because if you want to get involved in them, this is what you need to pay attention to. I like it. I like the fact that it's still in the proving stage, right? Still trying to stabilize here. It's doing some work. It's going to get above the 8 and 20 for me, and above 117 or so. I would like it as a nice kind of, you know, breakout play, continuation of trend. That's the way I would look at AMT, but I think it looks still pretty healthy. It's doing all the things right, so looks good to me. And that's it. I don't see any other questions. It's a slow summer day. Let's see what markets are doing right now. Anything changing? You see, you're still getting that, you know, you're going to get a win for both the bulls and the bears today, right? If we finish kind of down here at those lows, bears are going to say that we failed at the highs. Bulls are going to say, well, we broke out from this range. So it should be interesting. Excellent. All right, well, the recording will be out for everybody that came in late, or if you want to rewatch anything, we'll be out late in a few hours. Just check back on the YouTube page. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. As always, this was fun. I will catch you guys next time, and have a good day.